Okay, we're headed out today, starting the journey, the travel. I'm excited about this. Well, let's be honest, I've got mixed feelings about this. We're going to see how things at the airport go, and I'll probably end up filming this in sections. Some parts I won't be able to show, but I'll explain after. So this is a bit of an adventure that I go on every time that I go through an airport and cross border. More of the story later. I'm excited. Let's get going, see what we find out in the world. I promised an update or a story on the travel um, complications. I think there's some mosquitoes here. I know you can't tell exactly where I am right now, but I've made it to the destination. So I tried to do some filming as I went through the airport, uh, but I was stopped. Um, Yeah, I can't sit here from all the mosquitoes. All right, we're gonna try the story again. I think this is the third third time I've recorded it, and I'm having a little difficulty getting it to upload. Um, Now, when I was headed out, I have mentioned that I wasn't sure where I was going. I knew I was headed out in the world, not exactly sure the place I would arrive at first. So when I go through the airport, and we'll let you know right now that first place I went was into the US. So when I go through clearance at the airport, I'm always selected selected for a secondary screening. This has been happening for me since 2013, every time I go across the border. And we'll tell the story, a little bit of background on it. At the time, in 2013, I was rebuilding a hot rod. I had come across a rendering that a Swedish design student had done of this beautiful car. So I purchased the old vintage car that this concept was based upon, and I started to build it. So I live close to the border, and at the time I was doing all of my own import duty customs clearance for all the car parts. The US market is very strong for accessing that type of product, and we don't have the same availability in Canada. And also the dollar was on par at the time, so there was some cost savings with bringing it across and doing it myself. So 5 minutes from the border I would drive across, usually on the weekend, because I was working full-time then at the time. I'd run across, get my car parts, rush home, and fit a little bit of time in the garage working on this car. So it was an exciting project for me. You know, I taught myself how to weld, I learned how to do metal work, I did a lot of the CAD design for making this car as real. I wanted to see how far I could push the human creative ability, and that was all new to me. So it was an interesting exercise to go through. That's a separate topic. Now let's go back. So I had crossed the border and done this import exercise probably hundreds of times. I went across one weekend, left home, let them know, you know, it'll be quick, maybe 30 minutes it would take. I would time it right so I didn't get in a long line up at the border, get across, grab my material from the shipping location, import it back. Typically took 30 to 45 minutes to get it done. So this time when I went through, when I got to the booth entering the US, I was flagged at the initial clearance. So I was told, go around to the building to the other side. I pull into the building and park, 2 officers waiting there for me. They slap a sticker on the windshield, tell me to leave all of my things in the car and go inside. So I go inside and sit in the waiting area. At this point I had nothing with me, no ID, no phone. Everything that I had in my possession was sitting in my car outside. So sitting in the waiting area, fairly confident. I know I haven't done anything wrong, I'm just coming for car parts. Simple exercise, nothing to hide. So I'm sitting there half hour, 45 minutes in. I notice other people are coming and going. So typically people will come in, wait a few minutes, interact with one of the border guards, pay a fee and leave. So watching them come and go, thinking this won't take very long, I can get my car parts and be on my way. So 2 hours in, everyone else that's coming through is 15 minutes in and out, pay a fee and gone. You know, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, still fairly confident, maybe even a little bit cocky. I know that I haven't done anything wrong, no reason for me to be stopped, and just want to get my car parts. So over the next, little while, I notice the border guards are observing me as they walk by. I can see behind the mirrored glass that some of them are observing me from behind the glass. So 3 hours in, one of the guards comes and asks me if I need anything. Water, juice, no, don't need anything. I just have my car parts on my mind. So 3.5 hours in, comes back, water, washroom's over there if you need it. And I don't need the washroom. A half hour later, comes by, do you want water? Do you want anything? Washroom's over there. And I'm starting to think, why do they want me to use the washroom? What is this about? And still I'm just sitting there confident, haven't done anything wrong, no reason to be concerned with what's happening. I've been here a long time, and that didn't really bother me. I wasn't annoyed. I was just wondering what was going to happen and when I would get to go. As I'm thinking there, it is on my mind that I don't have any ID, I don't have a phone, I have no way of contacting anyone else. The guards are still with my car outside, I can see it at the door. 5 hours in, it comes, checks with me again, water, washroom, no, thanks, I'm good. And then, not too long after that, 5.5 hours, I see a guy with a suit come running in the door. I see the guards from behind the mirrored glass leave, and this guy goes rushing up the hallway into the back. A few minutes later, 2 different guards come and get me, fairly large guys. They invite me into the back. There's one of them on each of my arms, and we go into this screening room. And when we enter this room, I notice that there's security screening equipment that I'm very familiar with in there because of the work that I was doing at the time. And I have had a very high level of security clearance in the country that I lived in, so I'm familiar with this stuff. As I walk in the room, one of them on each arm, there's 2 more in the room, I say to them, this is good, you're going to find lots of information about me and what I do in that system. I'm happy that they're going to check me out and see who I am and what I'm about. So we go through the screening. They all seem confused by what's going on. I'm confident, haven't done anything wrong, just want my car parts. They sit me back down in the waiting area. A few minutes later, the guards come and get me again. They walk me up the hallway, and we go up this hallway around the corner and turn into an office. And as we enter the office, I see seated behind the desk the gentleman in the suit that came rushing in the door about 45 minutes earlier. He's sitting back there. He says to me as I walk in the room, I hope you don't mind. This guard is going to sit here and observe. He hasn't seen anything like this before. And the guard seated in the corner of the office was the guard that initially flagged me at initial screening when I tried to come through. So I said, yeah, no concern. Again, my mindset, my frame of mind here is, haven't done anything wrong, I just want my car part. So I sit down in the table, the gentleman behind the desk shows me his FBI badge, and I remember looking at it and kind of thinking, in my mind, that looks just like the badges in X-Files. How do you know that's real? And internally I kind of chuckle at this. It's not a joke. It wasn't a joke, but that's kind of what happened inside me at the time. And deepening that thought, I have no idea who these people are. I have no ID, no phone, no way of reaching out to anyone else. I'm at the whim of this process that I'm involved with, and the ability to hopefully clear it up. So I sit down, he shows me his badge, he says, "I just need a minute here to prepare." And he's sitting behind the desk across from me. The guard is observing in the corner over here. The office's door is closed. The FBI agent opens his bifold, leather bifold, and he starts to flip pages in his bifold, and I can see over the top of it. And as he flips pages, I see pictures of my now ex-wife and my mother-in-law go by, and pictures of them that I had not seen before. So I slouch down in the chair, and I have this bit of a gasp where I'm thinking, what the hell is this about? So he starts to ask me questions about my ex-wife and her mother, my ex-mother-in-law. He's suggesting that they've been involved with some things, asking a lot of questions about where they've been in the world and what they do. And I'm explaining to them that they're both authors. They write under pen names, so they have different names because authors do this. They're called pen names. So he's asking me all kinds of questions about them, where they've been, what they're doing. I hadn't seen these pictures, but they're clearly these people who are in my life. Yeah, so I was getting a little bit frustrated, and I remember saying at one point, the only thing my ex-mother-in-law is guilty of is having a filthy sense of humor. And the only bad person in that family is my ex-father-in-law. And as I say that, the FBI agent folds a piece of paper, lays it on the desk, and slides it across to me. I said, the only bad person in this family is my ex-father-in-law. And the last time I saw him, he was in this location in this city when we had moved out. So after I said that, the agent folded the piece of paper, laid it on the table, slid it across to me, and he said to me, "Do you happen to know if that's the address where he lived?" So on this piece of paper was the address where he was in the last time that I interacted with him, years before. And I said, yes, that's his address. So it turned out that so this family was separated. They were no longer married, but my ex-father-in-law had written in a letter to the President of the United States saying that my ex-wife and ex-mother-in-law were involved in the Boston bombing. And I happened to be the first person in the family to cross the border, so I was flagged. And I provided them with information. They were good to me. They helped me get home, thanked me for helping them clear it up. I did end up talking to the FBI agent again a few times. He had additional questions for me. And I remember a week later, and in my mind, I just want my car parts. So the next weekend, after I'm done work for the week, I go across the border. I pull up to the booth, and it's the same guard. I hand him my passport, and he says, "Gregory," he says, "you're doing the right thing." And he lets me in, no problem. I go and get my car parts. I do the import, customs, bring them home, and I'm home within 45 minutes. Now, every time since then, in 2013, any time I enter the States, I am flagged for secondary search. I am typically interviewed 2.5 hours, and then I'm allowed entry. I've never been denied entry. I have not done anything wrong. So I give myself extra time. This is stressful. It did result in a lot of things changing in my personal life. Now, I was surprised this time when I went through, imagining the typical experience. When I got there this time, the first initial screening, when the screen came up, and you can see it in their eyes, when this alert or whatever status I have comes up, their eyes light up, and this guy handled it differently. He just started to laugh. He's like, "Oh, what is this?" And kind of joked with me. "Oh, you've been through this before." He apologized to me. We have to take you in for secondary screening. I think you know why. Yes. So he asked me for a little bit of information, and we talked briefly. He took me in the back, very supportive, asked me how long I needed before I got on the flight. He was trying to make sure that I made it to where I needed to go. Not long after, I'm taken to secondary screening, and this time they were wonderful, very supportive. They gave me some information on what I can do to help change this situation, so potentially in the future, I don't have to go through this secondary screening again. It's been over 10 years, and I travel a lot, so I was always concerned that this would prevent me from getting where I needed to go for work or for personal reasons. And for personal reasons, a lot can be at stake. Some places in the world where you travel for vacation, they want everything prepaid, and this can be a significant amount of money, especially when you're looking at exchange rates between countries and those kind of shifting dynamics. But anyway, I made it through. I am in the States. I now have potential recourse on what's going on, and we'll see how that turns out. There's no moral to this story. The one thing that I did after this that was important for me was I realized that the pictures they were getting were coming off of social media. I hadn't seen most of those pictures that the FBI agent had. And I realized at this point I had no presence on the internet. I had no way of proving who I was. Once my ID and phone and car keys were not in my possession, I had nothing. So one of the things I did after this was make sure that I had a social media presence. And I used LinkedIn, and I started using Facebook. I don't use it anymore, but I do use Instagram, and it is a Facebook product or Meta product. But anyway, it was a real eye-opener or realization for me when I understood that they can access things in social media that I couldn't see about my, at the time, partner. So, campfire chat. Hopefully an interesting story. I'm really looking forward to this being something that I can put behind me and move beyond. And it feels as though there's been a shift with this one in my life, in this trip. And that could be about timing. That could be about the wonderful things that are possible in the future for all of us. So, thank you for listening to my story.